Hello and welcome back to another video on high altitude investing. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about whether Bitcoin can break out and keep rising even on low volume. Make sure that you guys hit the like button for me as well as subscribing because I'm dedicated to uploading 5 videos a week all through 2020 to keep you guys posted and updated in the markets. Bitcoin, I'm going to be comparing this with the 2008 just like I did the other day, showing you the NASDAQ and the Bitcoin. But what's really interesting about this is I'm going to be showing you the volume profile on the S&P so that you can get a better understanding as to why Bitcoin totally can break out here and why there's two main patterns that are being drawn by traders right now. One is the rising wedge that you just saw, and the other is an ascending triangle breakout. And we're going to discuss which one is probably playing out and why I think it is. So without further ado, let's get straight into the analysis. So a lot of people are saying, well, Bitcoin can't rise because of low volume. And this move since the bottom at 3,000 all the way up to 7,500 has been in declining volume. So this is something that the bears are using as a reason to suggest that Bitcoin is likely to fail support here and start trending downwards quite significantly. Now, the reason that I think Bitcoin can still break upwards here, even on low volume, is because I've seen Bitcoin break upwards on low volume many times. I also have seen Bitcoin break upwards on low volume out of ascending triangle patterns many times. Now, just because Bitcoin has done that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to happen, but there are other markets that have done this as well. And although history does not repeat, it often rhymes. And so what I mean by that is you find similarities in what's going on in between different markets. They might not be identical in every single way, but they're so similar that you get a lot of what you're looking for. It rhymes with it enough to get a better understanding of the markets. So this right here is the S&P 500 index, and this is on a Forex trading website. But the real reason I'm going here is because we get a volume profile. We get an idea of the volume inside of the market. So I'm going to go over down to the 2008 kind of financial crisis, the crash that everybody got so paranoid and so scared and completely got shaken out of the markets. So we're just going to keep going here. I'll switch to the 2-day time frame so we make a little bit more headway. Okay, so this is 2008, and the 2009 is really where we bottomed in the market. And this is kind of what I'm comparing here. I have the NASDAQ on the top and Bitcoin on the bottom. But the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 actually made a very, very similar pattern here because they're both some of the largest indexes. So you can see this ABC corrective pattern right there. That's exactly what the NASDAQ did right here is an ABC corrective pattern. If I showed you them side by side on a similar time frame, they would look identical from the peak to the low. So people are telling me, well, Dallin, how can we have Bitcoin break upwards? How can we have bullish movement coming in the markets when we have a rising wedge pattern, just like the NASDAQ made, and then we have declining volume? Well, let's take a look at the S&P 500 and we're going to move this out of the way here and kind of see why I think this is very possible for Bitcoin to see upward movement, even though a lot of people don't think that it will because of the volume profile. So this right here is where Bitcoin where the S&P first started finding its lows. And when it actually found those lows, it made like this falling wedge pattern. If this was inverted, that would look like a rising wedge pattern, but it's the same pattern that was made right here in the NASDAQ and right here in Bitcoin. And that pattern is where most of the volume comes in. You can see most of the volume. Let's turn on the volume for Bitcoin. You can see most of the volume came in at the bottom of that pattern, and then Bitcoin declines in volume after that. And we can look at the S&P, and you can see most of the volume came in at the bottom of that pattern, and then we declined in volume after that. Now, what's really interesting is people are saying that the reason we're going to see a large down leg is because of the rising wedge pattern inside of Bitcoin. Well, look what the S&P 500 did. It made a rising wedge, yes. And as it reached the peak of the rising wedge, it did fall a little bit out of the wedge, but in no way did it completely reverse its trend and see bear market continuation to new lows. In fact, let me show you what happened to the S&P 500 after this in value. And we actually got the volume. The volume came in the dip. And so what I wouldn't be surprised at all, what could happen with Bitcoin, I'm just going to draw this as a wedge so you can see the similarities, even though I don't expect it to see downside continuation. What we could see in Bitcoin is we could see the breakdown like this. Volume spikes could come in, some bigger spikes similar to the size of that, and then we see upward continuation in this trend. And you can really see how in the market, if you come like right here, if you look at this market, this would have scared the crap out of everybody. I mean, look at that. This looks like a giant rising wedge, bearish continuation. It would have tricked everybody. And that's exactly what I think Bitcoin is doing to everybody in the markets. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we fail support. Maybe we start heading down to these lows. But until that actually occurs, this is my trading plan for Bitcoin. This is what I'm doing. So what I'm betting my money on. This is where I'm investing my money. And I really think that it's more likely that we will see some volume come in on the market, but it probably won't come in until the prices are cheap enough that a whale feels comfortable dumping into the market. A whale isn't going to put huge buy orders in right here at the top of an upward pointing resistance level. It makes a lot more sense that we hit some resistance, we reject off that resistance, and then the volume levels come in, and then we see the continuation in the market, and it fakes everybody out because they thought it was a big bear continuation move when really it's a big bull continuation move. So let me show you what happened to the S&P after we saw this same pattern that Bitcoin's playing, and why it's so funny to me that everybody is so bearish. So look at this. What happened to the S&P after this move is years and years and years of steady uptrending, just continuous huge uptrend past the all-time high, past the previous all-time high, and to new all-time highs pretty much every single year after that. So that's kind of what I'm watching for Bitcoin. That's what I'm watching for Bitcoin in the short time frames, in the big time frames. That's why I think that this rising wedge, we could fail support of the wedge. We can test this right here and even start trending upwards higher, just in the same way that the S&P did, and just in the same way that the NASDAQ composite did in 2008. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see the volume come in on the dip, making every single bear in the whole market think that it's confirmed that this is a rising wedge and that we're going to do this to a new low. Or if we're looking at Bitcoin, it would look like this. Oh, rising wedge, we're going to do this to a new low. Every single person is going to be thinking that. And what's interesting about markets is it does exactly opposite of what every single person thinks it's going to do. And so if you can figure out, if you can kind of tune into that and see what the whales are doing, then you start to get in this kind of swing with the markets, and you start really tuning into the same rhythms as the whales. And that's kind of what I think is happening is this is a rhythm that the whales are using to shake people out, to trick a lot of analysts, even really good analysts, and set us up for bull market continuation. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, make sure you're a subscriber on my channel. I have a personal goal of reaching 100,000 subs, and I'm super grateful for all the subscribers I receive. Really close to passing over 26,000 here, so that is awesome. Also, you guys can follow me on Twitter and on TradingView, Dallin_Anderson. Links are in the description for both of those. That is where you will find updated analysis even when I'm not posting on my YouTube channels. And then my trade setups, entries, exits, all of the details about my trading, 40 videos. The course is all linked in the description as well. You can click on my website. You can check out my VIP 1 year, my VIP lifetime, and my Elliott Wave Power Series so you can take your trading to the next level. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today's video. And as always, stay profitable out there.